Okay, people, here's the thing. Dividing fractions is really confusing for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be confusing for us. I think part of the reason dividing fractions gets confusing is because we try to learn how to do it before we actually understand what we're doing. So before I get into the hows, this is what you flip and this is what you don't flip and all that stuff, we're going to talk about what we're actually doing. So before we do that, I want to introduce my friends for the day. This is my ruler. His name is Charlie. And these are my scissors. Her name is Greta. Greta and Charlie. These are my friends for today. Okay? Here we go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this problem, and we're not going to use a certain algorithm. That's like a process of doing a math problem. We're not going to use a certain algorithm to do this problem. We're just going to actually kind of draw it out, but we're going to model it. So a lot of people, when they see divided by half, they think about cutting something into two pieces. So if you have $20 and you divide it by a half, you tend to think that that's $10. But that's not dividing by half, that's dividing by 2. And dividing by half and dividing by 2 are very different things. So we have to make sure when we think about dividing by half, we're not thinking about dividing by 2. That's two totally different things. We're not cutting it into two equal pieces. That's not what we're talking about. So to illustrate this, I have taken this piece of paper that is, let me see if I can get it in the center camera, 5.5 inches long, okay? I used Charlie to measure it, right? Charlie said, whoop, 5.5 inches. Do you see that? All right, now, this way. I am going to use Charlie to measure this piece of paper in 1/2 inch chunks. So I have 5.5 inches, and I'm going to cut it into 1/2 inch chunks. I'm dividing into 1/2 inch pieces. That's the dividing by a half, okay? So let's use Charlie. Here we go. We have there's a half, there's a half, 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 and then the last one. Okay, you see that? So those are my 1/2 inch pieces. Now, I'm going to use Greta. We're going to cut it apart. We're going to see how many pieces we have, and that will be our answer, okay? So here we go, Greta. Greta, Greta, Greta. Okay, I'm going to pause and cut these, and then I'll come back. All right, so Greta and I have figured this out. These are my 1/2 pieces now. Whoops, I just dropped one. Hold on. Okay, so let's count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so our answer, and let me write this up here now, is 11. Okay, now, so what this means is how many, what this dividing question is really asking, is how many 1/2 inch strips are in 5.5 inches. And if you think about it, I hope this will help you. There would be 2 1/2 inch strips in every inch. So there's going to be 2 in the 1st inch, 2 in the 2nd inch, 2 in the 3rd inch, 2 in the 4th inch, 2 in the 5th inch, and then you have an extra half. There's 1/2 a finger for 1/2 an inch at the end. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because that is what we're doing when we're dividing by fractions, is we're actually asking how many fractional pieces are in this amount, okay? So with that knowledge, let's move into how we actually divide fractions, okay? Okay, so we're going to start off with some kind of easy ones that you could probably wrap your mind around. So the first one we're going to talk about is 2/3 divided by 1/3. So let's pretend we had a strip of ribbon that was 2/3 of an inch long, and we said how many 1/3 inch chunks could we cut this ribbon into if it was 2/3 of an inch long? I hope most of you could think through, well, that would be 2. Because if you have 2/3 of an inch long of ribbon and you cut it into third pieces, you have 2 third pieces. So we know that our answer would be 2, but let's see if we can do the math that lines up with that. I'm sure some of you have heard the rhyme, when dividing fractions, it's really quite fly, flip the second fraction and multiply. So let's do that. Here we go, 2/3 times 3/1, right? It's really quite fly, excuse me, flip the second fraction and multiply. So we're changing the division to multiplication and we're using the reciprocal, ooh, there's a good math word for you, using the reciprocal of 1/3. When we do top times top and bottom times bottom, we get 6/3, which if we simplify that, we get 2. So there you go. Next problem, same thing, 3/4 divided by 1/4. So if we have a 3/4 foot piece of wood and we divide that into 1/4 of a foot chunks, right? You have 3/4 and you want to know how many 1/4 pieces are in that. And that would be 3, right? There's 3/4 pieces. So let's see if our math matches up. When dividing fractions, it's really quite fly. Flip the second fraction and multiply. So we can, I don't know if you remember how to cancel, but we can divide this by 4 and this by 4. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So 3 is our answer for that. Now this last one's a little harder. 4/5 divided by 2/5. So that's saying how many 2/5 sections are in 4/5. Well, 2/5, if you have 2/5 sections, you get 4/5. So the answer for this one would be 2. Let's see if we get that when we do the math. When dividing fractions, it's really quite fly. Flip the second fraction and multiply. So here's our canceling here. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Oh, we could have canceled there too. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And we have our answer. Alright, so I'm finishing the video while I eat my baked spaghetti. So delicious. Okay, so we're going to talk tomorrow about word problems and throwing in mixed numbers, but that shouldn't trip you up too much because you already know how to do that. But the main thing that I wanted you to know was the concept of what it means to divide by a fraction, not just the algorithm, because I think most of you have already learned the flip and multiply thing. So tomorrow on your quiz, here's the key phrase. Unicorns love apples. Okay, that's the key phrase for the end of the video. Make sure you know that. Okay, see you tomorrow.